Kirsten Dunst is undeniably an actress of remarkable range. Her career spans over 30 years, and she has been in so many movies which weren't appreciated enough when they first came out, but which later ended up being cult classics. She's always been an icon to me because she managed to take hold of, I guess, two polar opposite movie genres and universes. Kirsten Dunst, the girl next door, and the depressed Kirsten Dunst. There's also the superhero universe, but I don't care about that. I want to discuss all the iconic movies Kirsten has been in and analyze her characters a bit, and I will start with the chick flicks. Kirsten's first memorable comedic role was as Verena von Stefan in the movie All I Wanna Do. This movie actually has a couple of titles. The original being The Hairy Bird, that was deemed a bit offensive in America since it alluded to male genitalia. Australia was the only country that kept the original title. In the United Kingdom and Canada, the movie was released under the name Strike. All I Wanna Do examines the life of girls at a female boarding school in the 60s, as the rumors of the school going co-ed are starting to loom over them.
Miss Goddard is going co-ed with St. Ambrose.
While some of the girls are excited to study together with the opposite sex, others are more fearful. That's especially true for Kirsten's character.
It's a disaster!
For Verena, the idea of merging schools is a catastrophe, a huge mistake with irreversible consequences. Verena believes the girls would be spending too much time on their appearance, and as a result, that would leave them no time to study and focus on their dreams and careers. The teachers would favor the boys, and the girls would be reluctant to speak up in class, because no boy likes a girl who seems smarter than him. Basically, girls would become more self-conscious.
Real life is boy, girl, boy, girl.
No! Real life is boy on top of girl!
Although the movie is about a group of friends, each of whom has their own story, Kirsten's character has a deeper arc, which, with the help of her charm, overshines all the other storylines. Verena is intelligent, ambitious, bold, and mischievous. She's always ready to clap back.
Verena, you've missed an entire period.
You mean I'm pregnant?
Verena runs the school, she has connections. She's leading the girls' secret club called DAR, which stands for Daughters of the American Ravioli, which is a play on Daughters of the American Revolution. The girls pledge to help each other achieve all the dreams and ambitions they have, no matter big or small. For instance, Verena wants to start her own magazine, similar to Vogue. It becomes clear that this boarding school is Verena's primary home. Even when the headmistress, Miss McVeigh, tells her to take a break and spend a weekend away from school, she doesn't want to. She hasn't even thought of that.
I love it here. It's my home.
That's because her own family situation is a mess. The movie just mentions that her parents are divorced, and she is deeply saddened by their separation, but the original script shares more details behind the divorce. In fact, Verena's father left her mother for her aunt, that is, her mother's sister. Hence, the reasoning behind Verena's strong reaction to co-education might be more personal and not just about girls' empowerment.
The school-going co-ed is not the end of the world.
You don't understand! You don't belong here! You don't deserve it!
If the school becomes a mixed-sex school, Verena might lose way more. A safe space where she can pull her pranks and be herself. And her dear girlfriends, of course, with whom she's ready to conquer the world. The stakes are higher. Verena is repulsed by boys. She views physical intimacy as something weird, animalistic.
Your great ambition in life is to lay with your legs up in the air like a bug?
She doesn't understand other girls' interest in this whole deal, but at the same time she's very supportive. When Audie, one of the girls, reveals that her main dream is to become an ex-virgin, Verena is ready to help and arrange the meeting between Audie and her boyfriend. All you have to do is just ask. Obviously, if you look at this from today's perspective, you might say that Verena is asexual, or she's definitely not straight.
I lust for no one. Not even you.
The movie, of course, takes a more traditional heteronormative approach. When Verena finds out that her school is planning to merge with all-boys school, she comes up with the most risky scheme she's done so far, to sabotage the upcoming dance and concert with the boys by getting them drunk. But that dance actually forces Verena to look at the opposite sex in a different light and challenge her views about them. She connects to one particular boy who happens to be in the same boat as her.
She and my dad are constantly slugging it out in court. It's a situation I don't like being in the middle of.
I know.
This prank finally gets Verena expelled, but her boisterous character inspires the rest of the girls to stand their ground and finish what she started. Moreover, for Verena, it's a big step forward to start her life and see herself beyond the walls of school. In an epilogue, prior to the credits, it's revealed that Verena made her dream come true and now she owns a successful magazine. All I Wanna Do blends comedy with serious subject matter that did upset some people. One of the girls has an eating disorder and one of the teachers is a predator. Sarah Kernighan, the writer and director of the movie, explained, quote, "People actually have been upset about the movie's handling of bulimia because we didn't deal with it too much as a storyline. But in those days, we didn't have a name for it, and we didn't really know what to do about it. It was bewildering. I knew that girls who threw up were upset about being overweight, but nobody knew anything more about it. So consequently, I didn't really deal with that too much in the movie, except to imply that the character would be okay. And there's the teacher, Mr. Dewey, who comes on to his female students, who was based on a teacher from my school. That was another case, like bulimia, where we didn't have a word for it. We had no term for predators and no real way of dealing with them." End quote. This movie is not your typical romantic comedy since it's about the rise of the second-wave feminism. Its primary focus is on the relationship between the girls and the importance of standing by one another.
They're not just girls. They're you.
Nobody was prepared for Drop Dead Gorgeous, a sarcastically dark mockumentary about teen beauty pageants. When it came out in 1999, it shamefully flopped in theaters. But it didn't stop the movie from reaching its cult classic status later when people around America started renting it and spreading the word. The story centers on the rivalry between two girls who come from different worlds. Amber, played by Kirsten Dunst, who is again perfect for that role, and Becky, played by Dennis Richards. Amber is the sweetest girl next door you will ever meet. Abandoned by her father, she lives with her single mother in a trailer home and works 2 jobs. Amber is a dishwasher at her school and a makeup artist at the funeral home. Any free time she gets, she spends on either rehearsing tap dancing for her talent number or doing good deeds like visiting the previous year's beauty queen Mary, who became anorexic.
She's anorexic. She's skinny, Amber, not deaf.
Becky, on the contrary, is the daughter of the richest man in town. She grew up being spoiled by her mother, who will stop at nothing to make sure her daughter wins the contest, since she herself is a former winner. Tell me you picked at high school without telling me you picked at high school. This film offers a sharp examination of classism, twisted nationalism, bigotry, gun culture, and warped outlook on femininity. Amber doesn't care about the title she might get. For her, winning this pageant means getting the scholarship and escaping her small town. Even her mother Annette, with whom she has the most wholesome bond, encourages her to keep competing despite death threats.
This pageant's your ticket out of here. And I know you can win.
This movie perfectly showcases the deranged world of teenage girls that can be both profound and absurd.
This is Nazi Germany!
The script for the movie was written by Lona Williams, and for her, the story was way more personal. During her teen years, she participated in a lot of beauty pageants, and her main motivation was to get out of her town. She explained, quote, "It wasn't a dream, it was a way out. I used my scholarship to go to the University of Minnesota, and that was great," end quote. She incorporated a lot of personal details about her experiences into the writing that turned out to be extremely dark and bleak. She said, quote, "I guess it had a bigger imprint on me than I thought," end quote. Williams was surprised by how competitive everyone was. Therefore, the movie is an exaggeration of everything she saw. The satire doesn't spare anyone, and the movie's lesson is just a punch in the gut. Amber has all of the traits that can make her a next Miss American teen princess. The talent, the values, and the looks. But her victory is just a mix of circumstances and coincidences that are so chaotic you have to experience them yourself.
Good things happen to good people. No, it's pure bullshit, sweetie. You're lucky as hell, so you might as well enjoy it.
This movie has the most perfect ending for such a wild ride across Midwestern America. You either think this movie is one of the best unhinged dark comedies about girls that you can quote daily, or you're deeply offended by everything that is happening on screen. This movie is basically a trauma that explodes in your face.
You bring me on some of that snotty attitude, Becky. Bring it on!
Another movie that gained its own following over time, that seems to be the pattern in Kirsten Dunst's career unfortunately, was Bring It On. You can't imagine Torrance being played by anyone rather than Dunst. Torrance is living the dream. She's just been elected to be the new captain of her cheerleading squad, the Taurus, and she's full-on ready to lead them to the national championship. But there is a but. Torrance finds out that her former captain was stealing routines from an all-black squad called the Clovers, that now also have a new captain, Isis, who is not going to put up with that.
I'm captain, and I guarantee you will make it to national.
Bring It On dared to challenge a lot of stereotypes that are commonly associated with teen comedies and actually comment on cultural appropriation and theft. Peyton Reed, the director of the movie, said, quote, "She, Torrance, is really kind of dipping her toe into realizing that she is a product of white privilege and she's got to deal with it," end quote. And she is dealing with it. Torrance feels bad and complicit, however at first the whole squad doesn't really see the problem and continue to use the cheers that were stolen until they're shamed and humiliated at their own football game. A great example of how it usually goes in real life. What is amazing about the characters is that there is no bitchy, dirty competition. Both Torrance and Isis are very respectful and they acknowledge each other's strengths and weaknesses. Torrance might be naive, but she wants to be a good person and do better.
Well, I'm a captain too, you know. And I'm trying to make it right.
The dynamic between Torrance and Missy, a gymnast who transfers from LA with her brother Cliff, is refreshing too. There's no jealousy between the girls. Torrance sees Missy's talent and wants her to be in their team, and Missy in turn sees that Torrance and her brother Cliff are romantically interested in each other, and she doesn't sabotage their relationship, she actually helps them get together. Imagine a world that is that healthy, where people uplift and empower each other. Yeah. The best part of Bring It On is the ending credits that show the bloopers and a little clip with the whole cast dancing and lip-syncing to the song Hey Mickey. Remember when movies used to do that? Show bloopers? I miss it. There is another movie in this category or universe that I cannot not mention because the review of this movie has become more culturally significant than the movie itself. And this movie is Elizabethtown. At this point, everyone has heard of the term Manic Pixie Dream Girl, but maybe some people don't know who coined it and that the original Manic Pixie Dream Girl was one of the Kirsten's characters. In 2007, a film critic, Nathan Rabin, wrote a review on the movie Elizabethtown in which he called Claire, a love interest of the main protagonist, Drew, played by Orlando Bloom, a Manic Pixie Dream Girl. He defined this term as, quote, "a fantasy figure who exists solely in the fevered imaginations of sensitive writer-directors to teach broodingly soulful young men to embrace life and its infinite mysteries and adventures," end quote. In the movie, the most ridiculous thing Claire does is make a map for Drew that she fills with hand-drawn art, collages, photos, instructions, notes, and a perfectly timed, customized soundtrack for him to play as he drives back home trying to come to terms with his father's death. In 2014, though, Nathan wrote another article apologizing for inventing the term as it got out of control. People started overusing it and misusing it to describe things that didn't really fall under the Manic Pixie Dream Girl umbrella. I personally don't find anything wrong with the term itself, as it was created to call out the bad writing and the sexist treatment of female characters on screen, but I believe it was more of like an error that lasted for some time. This trope is pretty much dying out, or at least I hope so.
You failed. You failed. You failed. You failed. You failed.
Kirsten Dunst actually liked her character Claire. Quote, "She's honest and upfront to a fault. She doesn't have a lot of fear. She's dorky and doesn't care. And in that way, she's cool," end quote. The movie itself might not be that great, but Kirsten is the best part of it for sure, and her character will be forever remembered as the first labeled Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Comedies are extremely underappreciated. They are treated as guilty pleasures, as second best. Actresses that do comedies are not taken seriously, and oftentimes these movies are considered to be black marks in their careers. Oh, maybe they will get an opportunity to be in a more serious movie, because for some reason, a serious movie equals real acting. Comedy acting is seen as low-effort acting. In people's eyes, it's easier to do. In a 2004 interview with Black Film, Kirsten said that for her, romantic comedies are the hardest to do. Quote, "It's so much easier to make a dramatic scene work, I think. It's hard to keep that freshness of flirting, you know what I mean? When you're on take 20 and it's a different person's close-up, and you're still delivering these lines that are cute and this and that, and you know it has to be sexy or whatever, and it's just hard to keep pumping those things out and feeling in the moment with what you're saying." End quote. I want to say that Kirsten Dunst didn't do 180 with her career and randomly decided to become a sad girl. She was only 11 when she filmed Interview with the Vampire, and her first collaboration with Sofia Coppola happened in between her most well-known comedy appearances. In general, she's done movies of different genres. It's a bit weird to me when people say she's reinvented herself because it again reinforces the idea that her roles in comedy were just a weird period in her career, despite the fact that these movies meant a ton for the whole generation that grew up on them. I think those roles deserve some respect. Okay, it's time to talk about Kirsten Dunst from the sad universe and Sofia Coppola. Sofia Coppola has a very distinctive approach to femininity on screen, which is very recognizable. She prioritizes visuals as a form of storytelling. Cotton candy colors, natural lighting, lingering shots. Coppola can make a moldy sandwich look pretty. These visuals usually reflect the emotional journeys of her characters. Her muses are young girls and women, which is not that common or maybe rarely discussed. Coppola's movies are not very heavy on dialogues or monologues. There is a lot of nonverbal communication with how women move, glance at someone, or smile. Kirsten met Coppola when she was only 16. She was cast in her directorial debut, The Virgin Suicides, and since then their bond has only gotten stronger. In Kirsten's words, Coppola always made sure that she was comfortable on set.
It was written in a script that I have to make out with a bunch of different boys on the roof. Finally, it was I'm kind of nervous, so she was like, you don't need to kiss any of them. Just bury your head in their neck and we'll put, a jacket or just he'll put his arm around you here and stuff. So she always made it, comfortable for me.
But most importantly, Sofia made Kirsten feel pretty and beautiful, which is so important, especially when you're just a teenage girl. She was the person who told Dunst not to straighten her teeth. Kirsten said, quote, "She said to me, 'I love your teeth, don't ever fix your teeth.' I remember doing a Spider-Man movie later, and one of the producers was like, 'I need to take you to the dentist. They even fixed my teeth on the poster, but I just knew I was never doing that.'" End quote. From my perspective, Coppola romanticizes being a girl and young woman. It's through her movies she's saying, you deserve to be admired and you deserve to be looked at by people in a loving way. Quote, "Often, movies about teenagers are dumbed down with cheap photography. There aren't a lot of quality art films made for young audiences, but I wanted to treat them with respect, to look properly at that deep emotional time. I wanted to make something beautiful and poetic for girls, because I didn't see that, so I made something that I wanted to see." End quote. If you watch Sofia's movies, she examines the girls and women through the eyes of other people, oftentimes men and boys. In Virgin Suicides, the Lisbon sisters are watched by the curious neighbor boys, and the whole movie is narrated by one of them. In Marie Antoinette, the queen is watched and judged by the public, the gossiping members of the court.
All eyes will be on you.
In The Beguiled, even though Coppola flipped the original story and decided to tell it from the female perspective, you still learn about the girls through their interactions with the soldier, the opposite sex.
Seems like the soldier being here is having an effect.
The characters Kirsten has played in Coppola's movies are at different stages of their lives. You have Lux, a playful, flirtatious, and sexually adventurous teen girl; Marie Antoinette, a charming but naive young queen who is coming into her adulthood; and Edwina, a repressed and conservative teacher. All of them are cut off from the real world, physically and mentally trapped in their houses and closed-off communities. Their lives are dictated by the rules of other people. Lux lives under the roof of religious parents. Marie Antoinette is alone in a foreign country in her huge mansion, facing immense pressure and expectations. Not only to be a good ruler, but a proper woman, whatever that means in the eyes of people of that period. And finally, Edwina. She's under the headmistress's thumb, stuck amid the civil war. You see these characters daydream a lot, being fully absorbed in thought. For them, it's a temporary escape. They long for autonomy and freedom and ache for somebody to save them. The quote from The Virgin Suicides explains the essence of Coppola's protagonists.
You felt the imprisonment of being a girl, the way it made your mind active and dreamy.
With time, the characters become more in touch with their desires and rebel. Lux still finds ways to sneak out and hang out with boys, going against her parents. Marie Antoinette embodies rebelliousness in many ways. She rejects formality since the very beginning and later completely dismisses social life to focus on her family.
This is ridiculous.
Edwina manages to disobey the headmistress and choose the enemy, Soldier McBurney, even though it ends very badly for both of them. And that's the thing with Sofia Coppola's movies. Her female protagonists don't really get a happy ending or any conclusive ending really. You only get glimpses of their lives. Kirsten Dunst once said about her Marie Antoinette role, quote, "I felt like I was playing a perfume of her, you know?" End quote. I suppose all Coppola's characters can be put in small pretty perfume bottles with wistful fragrances. You don't get to know them thoroughly, but at the same time you relate to their feelings of entrapment and desperation. Coppola's skill is leaving you melancholically wondering about what could have been and what is yet to be. And together with Dunst, they have created this ultra-girlish niche that fully embraces femininity.
Virgin Suicides, I looked up to her, and she was such a good example for me as a woman. And then Marie Antoinette too, I always held Sophia in such a high esteem, like looking at an older sister whose clothes you want to wear. And then on this film, I felt, okay, this was like, now we're very good friends.
While Coppola's movies gave Dunst the title of being this new sort of somber dream girl, Lars von Trier really pushed her into the realm of depression. In Melancholia, Kirsten Dunst plays Justine, a newlywed bride who's severely depressed. In the beginning of the film, Justine seems happy and excited for her wedding, the reception of which is planned to be held in a fancy castle owned by her brother-in-law and her sister Claire. However, nothing goes as planned. Couple is late for their own celebration, Justine seems more airheaded and withdrawn, her boss promotes her to the art director during his speech, which is good news, yet he immediately pressures her to come up with a new tagline for their ad. Moreover, her divorced parents are messing things up, especially her mother, who is convinced that Justine cannot have a normal life and be a wife.
Enjoy it while it lasts. I myself hate marriages.
A part of her is projecting because her own marriage failed, but at the same time, she might know something that the audience are not aware of, a dark premonition. For Justine, the behavior she's exhibiting is not just wedding jitters. She fully understands that something horrible is coming.
Mom, I'm a bit scared.
There's a lot of striking imagery throughout the film that show her internal battle with depression and longing for a normal life. Her sister Claire is aware of what's going on, and she's the only person who takes Justine's illness seriously. But during the wedding, she just hopes it will pass Justine by, that it's not that bad, she can be normal for just this one day.
We agreed that you weren't going to make any scenes tonight.
At some point, Claire tries getting Justine drunk so she can loosen up, but she's so out of it she can hardly move. Justine's groom Michael is in oblivion. He underestimates the severity of the whole situation. In the end, Justine calls off her marriage.
What did you expect?
She fully spirals towards the end of the party. She cheats on Michael with her new colleague, and the cheating part looks more like a sexual assault despite the guy saying this after it.
We've had good sex.
She also argues with her boss and quits her job. So it's not just a pity party for Justine. She's a total asshole towards people and animals. I have to bring back my unhingedness scale because it's totally unhinged. After the wedding part, the story transforms into a disaster movie because scientists have discovered a new planet behind the sun called Melancholia, which is now approaching the Earth. They believe it will just pass the Earth by and not collide with it. If you were looking for the depression metaphor, here it is. If it does collide though, everything and everyone will get wiped off. And here's where it gets interesting. Justine and Claire switch places. Claire starts falling apart, experiencing anxiety and dread, while Justine slowly collects herself. She's prepared if the death comes. It might even be something she wants. As Lars, the director, said, quote, "My analyst told me that melancholics will usually be more level-headed than ordinary people in a disastrous situation, partly because they can say, 'What did I tell you?'" End quote. Justine and Claire have the exact same dialogue in the movie.
You have it easy, don't you? That's right, Clay. Sometimes it's easy being me.
Justine has been at her lowest point, in a totally hopeless place, and for her it definitely felt like death and the end of the world. She lost all her senses, she couldn't even eat. In the end, Melancholia fully devours the Earth, the same way depression devours Justine. Of course, the end of the movie can be interpreted in many ways. You either believe that the planet is real and Justine just displays calmness in the face of a disaster, or that it isn't real and it's just a metaphor for everything depression entails, how it affects you and people around you. No matter the scenario though, Justine chooses to fully surrender because life on Earth is evil.
The Earth is evil. We don't need to grieve for it.
Kirsten took the Best Actress award at Cannes Film Festival for this role. Yet in Hollywood, she felt ignored.
Well, remember when Marie Antoinette, y'all panned it, and now y'all love it. Remember Drop Dead Gorgeous? Pan, now y'all love it. Like, it's like interesting for me. I feel like a lot of the things I do, people like later. Like, and also, I've never been recognized in my industry. I'm like never been nominated for anything. Maybe like twice for Golden Globe when I was little and one for Fargo. But like, no one in, like, I always feel like nobody, I don't know, maybe they think I'm just the girl from Bring It On.
Only this year, in 2022, she received her first Oscar nomination for her supporting role in the movie Power of the Dog. And people were excited for her. It was long overdue. Kirsten said, quote, "It's so rare to be in a good movie that everyone likes. That's lightning in a bottle. I know how special this time is. It opens new doors for me." End quote. At this point, Dunst is considered to be a veteran in the industry, but she still has so much to give and achieve. I hope one day she gets a chance to direct her own movie, since it's been her dream.
You gonna be an actress the rest of your life? Is this what you want to do?
Hopefully, yeah.
So you really enjoy it then?
Yeah, I'd like to write and direct too.
Really? You're 13.
I was so excited when I found out she was planning her directorial debut with The Bell Jar, an adaptation of Sylvia Plath's novel, but unfortunately, in Kirsten's own words, that ship has sunk. No matter who Kirsten Dunst is to you personally, a Spider-Man girl, a Bring It On girl, or the Virgin Suicides girl, she draws people's attention every time, because she always gives it her all.
So many like young men and women have said to me how much they've loved Marie Antoinette or Virgin Suicides. Like, that's a big deal. One girl came up to me, she had a tattoo of Virgin Suicides on her chest. So that's a special, yeah, it's hard to be part of one great movie like that, you know, and to work with people that make special movies that really affect people. It's like, well, that's the point of movie making.